Hi YouTube, welcome back. Today we're going to make some homemade pizza dough. Stay tuned. Now, in the past, I have usually gotten the pre-packaged dry ingredients that you just add water to make pizza dough. And that's been fine. And then I wanted to start making my own pizza doughs. And I found one recipe that I had all the ingredients for because my yeast had gone bad. And it just tasted very floury. It was like a cardboard pizza, but I put a lot of work into it. I like easy recipes, and I've looked at several, and I couldn't decide. So today we're going to try two different recipes. One is supposed to be a 2-ingredient recipe, although I don't have self-rising flour, so it'll be a 4-ingredient recipe, but that's okay. That one we're going to make tomorrow, because this is for dinner tomorrow. Tonight, we're going to start with a no-knead overnight fermented dough. But we're going to try both of these recipes out, and we're going to see how the taste compares. Now, I will link both recipes down below. This first one comes from a rather famous YouTuber, Basics with Babish. He's very funny. I enjoy watching his videos. He usually goes a little bit more gourmet type cooking than I have energy for, but this one is a really easy recipe. You just have to think ahead because it takes 18 to 24 hours to ferment before you use it. But enough playing around, let's get it started so I can get to bed. First, these ingredients are all weighed instead of measured in cups. So I've got my scale ready, set to grams, and it is zeroed out with the bowl on it. First, we're going to need 500 grams of flour. Now, it calls for bread flour. I don't have bread flour, I have all-purpose flour. But that just means it'll be a little bit less chewy. I'm okay with that. Next is 16 grams of kosher salt, 1 gram of yeast, should be about a 1/4 teaspoon. Now, I'm using the instant, fast-rising yeast. I don't know if that makes a difference, but around here, we use what we got. That's what I got, so that's what I'm using. Now we're going to mix these up really well before we add our room temperature water. Now we've changed the scale over to milliliters, and we're going to add 350 milliliters, about 1.5 cups-ish. And now we stir. You don't need the scale anymore. I've put it away. I said it should be a shaggy dough. Cover with plastic wrap. Now I'm going to leave it right here on the counter at room temperature for 18 to 24 hours. So I'm going to get some sleep, and we'll be right back. And it's the next day. I've got my oven preheating to 475 degrees. My dough that I started last night is looking big, puffy, bubbly, just like it's supposed to. It has doubled in size, definitely. And now we're going to start on the second version of pizza crust. Now this one, you do need a little bit, but this one requires no proofing. That one proofed a very long time. This one requires no proofing. Once you mix it, it's ready to go. There are several iterations of this recipe online, mostly touted as a 2-ingredient pizza crust. However, all of those require self-rising flour, which I do not have. I did find a version that called for all-purpose flour, which is what I usually have on hand, and turning that into self-rising flour. So that is the recipe that I will link down below. But keep in mind that other than turning the all-purpose flour into self-rising flour, it's pretty much the same recipe as all the other ones. First, we're going to start with a cup of flour. I'm not measuring these on a scale. I am measuring them in regular measuring cups. Supposedly, this recipe is very forgiving. This will not make nearly as much as the other recipe did, just to warn you. Next, we need a half of a teaspoon of kosher salt. I don't know if it matters if it's kosher salt or not, but I do have kosher salt. So I'm using kosher salt. And then 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, not soda, powder. There's 1 and 1.5. Just like the other recipe, we're going to mix our dry ingredients first. And then add our 1 cup of yogurt. And mix until you can get a shaggy dough. Don't forget to spill a little bit of flour on your shirt. Because if you don't have flour on your shirt, how will your family know you actually made this from scratch? And I think I am definitely going to need 2 batches of this. Now, this is supposed to be a pretty wet dough, but you're going to roll it out on your counter with some flour so it'll dry up. Smells like yogurt. It says a very generously floured surface. I do not have a pizza peel, and I do not have a pizza stone, or even a pizza steel. So I'm going to do the best that I can to put on regular pizza pans. These are going to be personal size pizzas. Ish. Alright, I did manage to wrestle it onto the pizza pan and then spread it out just a little bit more. But my hands were very yucky, so I couldn't turn the camera back on. This is my homemade pizza sauce with tomatoes out of my garden from last year. This is pretty much the last of it. I've got 2 little half-pint jars, and that's it. Add a little bit of of Italian seasoning. I left the doughs pretty plain. You can add seasoning in the doughs. Alright, I got pizza number 2. Wrestled on her a little bit easier because I just made a mountain of flour. And dropped it on a mountain of flour, poured a bunch of flour on top of it, and then flipped it over. And repeated that process a few times until I could pick it up and put it on here. And then I just tugged on the thicker ends a little bit. So far, I do not like working with this dough. It better taste amazing. Because I didn't really find it that much easier because of the hassle of trying to work with it. It's just so wet. Well, 7 minutes was not long enough. 8 minutes, it still didn't look quite done. 9 minutes was a little too much, and the cheese started browning a little too far. So, 8 minutes. Alright, first impressions of the yogurt crust. Well, it doesn't taste as floury as I was afraid with all the flour I had to put on the counter. So it's not pizzeria quality, but if you're in a pinch, it'll work. It's better than the last recipe I tried, which just tasted like flour. It had no yeast and no yogurt. I don't remember what else went in with the flour, but I did not care for it because it tasted like frozen pizzas. What we call cardboard pizza. This one is a little bit better than that, but it's still not as good as like the pre-mixed packets that you just add water to. That actually tastes better than the yogurt one, in my opinion. Now that recipe made 2 about a 9-inch pizzas. It's about 2 9-inch pizzas. Could have stretched it to 10 a little bit if I could have worked with it a little bit better. But that's how much it made. So while the second pizza is resting, we're gonna get into the one that I started last night and has been fermenting all night. Oh, it smells good. It has doubled in size and it's got lots of bubbles on it. That means it's working. Now, this one says a lightly floured surface. This made a whole lot more. Also put a lot more flour in it. Look, it's very stringy. That is supposed to be a sign of the gluten getting worked through the fermentation process or something like that. It's a good sign anyway. It's supposed to be like that. This is not as sticky as the yogurt dough. I'm just going to call it the yogurt dough. I know these you can make ahead of time, and if you're not using them right away, at this point, you would wrap them in saran wrap individually and put them in the fridge. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Very nice dough to work with. Alright, now this one we're going to spread out. I'll fold it in a little bit. And then spread out. It's very springy, so I'm going to let it rest just for a few minutes and then come back and finish shaping it. See, this is a bit bigger than the other ones. I probably could have even separated them into like 5 or 6 dough balls. It's also very stretchy. And it wants to go back to its original shape. And then our toppings. All topped beautifully and ready to go in the oven. I'm keeping the same temperature, and I'm going to try for about 8 minutes again. Alright, I've got 3 more pizzas to get going. So I'm going to do that, and we'll be back for the taste test. All right, finally, I get to try the other pizza. This is the overnight fermented one. I saved a piece of the original just for side-by-side comparison, even though it's a little bit cold. Yeah, this one's the winner. I like the taste better, although the yogurt one isn't bad. It's a decent taste in pizza. It's just hard to work with. Now, the overnight fermented pizza dough is much easier to work with, so you could easily make a large pizza or calzones or anything that you wanted with that dough. The yogurt pizza dough, on the other hand, it's so messy and sticky and hard to work with that you're pretty much just going to get a small personal pan pizza and you're not going to get it very thin, but it tastes good. If you have yogurt that you need to do something with before it goes bad, by all means, make some pizza dough. It might work better for like a pan pizza. I could see that, definitely. But if you want to make calzones, go with the overnight. So anyway, thanks for coming along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. And remember, life's an adventure. Thanks for joining me in mine. God bless.